Okay, before we start with the video, can you please guys comment down below on what do you think I could improve more on the videos that I create so that it would be more entertaining and more engaging for you guys.
So today I'll try to make chocolate cake, but before anything else or before we start, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so for our base we will be needing 410 grams of all-purpose flour, 450 grams white sugar, 125 cacao powder unsweetened. This is a mixture of 1 tablespoon baking soda, 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1.5 teaspoon of salt. We need 4 large eggs. Okay, so supposed to be we will be using buttermilk. If you can buy buttermilk, it's better. It's gonna be 325 milliliters. If you don't have access to buttermilk, what I did here is just whole milk, and I added 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. I mixed it and then waited for a few minutes, around 10-20 minutes, until it thickens a little bit. And then next, warm water. Temperature around 60 degrees Celsius more or less. 50 milliliters of oil. And if you want to add vanilla extract for flavoring, I'm not gonna use vanilla extract. So, that's it. Okay, so for the frosting, we will be needing cream cheese. This is 225 grams. For the cacao powder, this is 125 grams again. Soft butter, this is 340 grams unsalted. And powdered sugar, 260 grams. So for the powdered sugar, if you can find powdered one or caster sugar, it's good. But if you cannot find one, you can use regular white sugar, then blend it until it is really fine and powdery. Then strain it. So strain it in a very fine strainer so that you get a very powdered texture of your sugar. So it will not have whole grains of sugar on the frosting that we will be making. That's it. Okay, so first things first, before we start doing the base, first we need to preheat the oven at 175 degrees Celsius or 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So when the base is ready to bake, the oven is already hot. Okay, first thing we need to do in making our base, our sponge cake, is to mix all our dry ingredients. Sugar, cacao powder, cocoa, I don't care, salt, baking powder, and baking soda, and your flour. So now that this is well mixed, time to add all the wet ingredients. The oil, the eggs, warm water, and the milk or your buttercream. See, the texture of this one is not as thick as a yogurt, but it's thick. It has lumps. Scoop them out. So we will be using this one, the whisk attachment. Low speed. Okay, so always scrape the bottom of this one because sometimes there are some lumps at the bottom that are not being mixed well. So yeah, once you finish scraping the bottom, mix it again for a few minutes. Okay, so now that the chocolate base mixture is already done, it's time to grease the pan. This is around 9-10 inches of pan, so I'm just gonna grease that one with grease, butter. If you want butter, if you want oil, you can use oil. Try not to put too much. So with the sponge cake mixture, this one will make around 2 portions, so just try to divide it evenly. But for me, I will just eyeball it while I'm putting it here and hope for the best. So we will cook this in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. So let's do our frosting. So what we will do is to mix first the butter and the cream cheese until these two are fluffy. Okay, so now that the texture of the butter and cream cheese is light, it's time to add the cacao powder and the sugar. The powdered sugar, put little at a time and always taste it because it might get too sweet. Season this depending on your taste.
So just in case the frosting that you are doing turns out a little bit too thick, you could always add a little bit of milk, a few tablespoons at a time until you get the texture of the frosting that you want. For me, I'm just gonna put maybe 1 tablespoon more or less of milk, and then mix it until it's I get the desired texture. Also, always try to scrape the bottom and the sides, especially at the bottom, because sometimes there are ingredients that are not being mixed properly. So just take note of that one.
Okay, so now I got my desired consistency for my frosting. Also, I only used around 2/3 of the sugar because I don't want this to be too sweet. It still has this bitter flavor, but not too sweet. Also, at the same time, just balances out the flavor. Also, I only put maybe around 1 tablespoon of milk, and that's it. Also, this one will still harden when you put this on the chiller. Okay, so here is our base. So the way to check this if it's cooked, if you have cake tester, it's gonna be good. If not, any pointy thing. This one I'm using for a thermometer. Just stick it in the middle, pull it. If it goes out clean, it's good. 30 to 35 minutes, okay? Okay, so once your cake is cold, what you need to do is just cut the top part, the one that bulges, like this one, just to make it this one a little bit even. Okay, so I cut the top as flat as I can, okay? So what we will do, we will put the frosting here on top first, and then on your other cake sponge, you flip it, and then put this on top once there's already a frosting, okay? Then we put frosting on top and on the sides. Okay, so this is the finished product. I left the edges a little bit rustic and flat as much as I can on the top. It always takes practice to get the top part smooth, even on the sides. That's why it's okay if the first time you make one isn't so perfect like mine. Also, if you want to decorate this, make this a little bit more fancy, it's up to you. You can do it now, or you can do it after you put this in the chiller, but doesn't make sense if you do that. Decorate it now, put it in the chiller, then it will harden overnight. By tomorrow or the day after you do this, it's gonna be good.